shadows, count the dead. Traitors walk where heroes bled. Eyes in the dust, ears in the wall.
Welcome to Warhammer 40k Lore in the Bible, where I pull from Warhammer 40k lore to help explain biblical lore. And today we're going over the Alpha Legion, as promised. I also do these in short format. That's more of a narrative experience. And then I also do Warhammer 40k lore reacts as well, with biblical veneer to it as well. But the way these work is we get into the Warhammer 40k lore first to set the stage, and then we get into the biblical stuff. And then we round back to Warhammer 40k lore at the end. And this one, I'm going to read this first part here in the Lexicanum, but I pretty much shortened it in a document and stuff like that because reading this whole thing takes very long. So I just got the important parts and all that, but we'll read this first part here. Okay. The Alpha Legion, also known as the Ghost Legion during the early Great Crusade, is the 20th Legion of the original 20 Space Marine Legions. They turned against the Emperor during the Horus Heresy, becoming Chaos Space Marines. Even before they turned to Chaos, the Alpha Legion were renowned as the most secretive of all the legions. The Alpha Legion's most closely guarded secret, unbeknownst to all but a few outside the Legion, as that they had two Primarchs, Alpharius and his twin, Omegon, sometimes referred to collectively as just Alpharius Omegon. The Alpha Legion's veterans are experts in infiltration, sabotage, and discord, covert operations, and manipulating events in their favor, without revealing themselves or engaging in open warfare. Alpha Legions have been known to disguise themselves as loyalist space marines. Their armies are also contain regular humans known as operatives. Alright, now we're going to go to the document here. So, the Alpha Legion, designated as the 20th Legion, was the final Space Marine Legion created by the Emperor. Shrouded in secrecy from their inception, they were designed for subterfuge, infiltration, sabotage, rather than blunt force warfare favored by their brothers. Uniquely, the Legion was led by twin Primarchs Alpharius and Omegon, though they publicly maintained the facade of being a single entity. Their motto, "I am Alpharius," became a chilling psychological weapon, as every Legionnaire was trained to look, act, and speak exactly like their Gene-Sire to ensure the head of the Hydra could never be severed. That Hydra's going to come in the biblical side of things, so stay tuned. During the Great Crusade, the Alpha Legion distinguished themselves through complex, multi-layered strategies that prioritize efficiency and misdirection, while other legions sought glory on the front lines. The 20th Legion operated in the shadows. Toppling planetary governments through civil unrest and targeted assassinations before a single shot was fired. This preference for overcomplicated schemes often drew the ire of more straightforward Primarchs like Robo Guilliman, leading to a deep-seated philosophical rift. The Alpha Legion viewed their elaborate deceptions not as vanity, but as superior form of warfare that minimized their own casualties while maximizing the enemy's confusion. The Legion's path to treachery began with a clandestine meeting with an alien organization known as the Cabal. Through a series of psychic visions, the Cabal showed Alpharius and Omegon two possible futures. One where the Emperor won the coming civil war, but humanity slowly stagnated into a nightmare of suffering, and another where Horus won, leading to the total extinction of humanity, but the ultimate destruction of the Chaos Gods. In a paradoxical act of ultimate loyalty, the twins chose the latter, believing that sacrificing the human race was the only way to save the galaxy from the eternal hunger of the warp. As the Horus Heresy erupted, the Alpha Legion played a masterful double game. They participated in Estevan V drop site massacre, openly turning their guns on their loyalist brothers, yet their true motives remain opaque. Throughout the war, they conducted shadow campaigns that often seemed to hinder the traitors as much as the loyalists. They were the masters of the war behind the war, using sleeper cells and deep cover operatives to destabilize the Sol system, culminating in the bold infiltration of Pluto, where Alpharius, or perhaps a body double, reportedly fell in a duel against Rogel Dorn. I screwed it. Anyways, by the end of the heresy, the Alpha Legion's fall was unlike any other. They did not retreat into the Eye of Terror as a broken force, but instead shattered into independent, autonomous war bands that remained within the borders of the Imperium. To this day, it is unclear if they served the ruinous powers, their own inscrutable agendas, or if they are still in some twisted way fighting for the Emperor. They remain the greatest enigma of the 41st millennium, a legion that may have become the very monsters they sought to defeat, or the only ones playing a game long enough to actually win. All right, so let's get into the biblical side of things here. So Psalms 74:14, Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. So who is this Leviathan? Right here. Isaiah 27:1. In that day the Lord with a sword, a great strong sword, shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent. He shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Okay, now we're going to get into this. Oh, real quick. Job 26:13. By his spirit he hath garnished the heavens. His hand hath formed the crooked serpent. All right. Let me find that here. Okay. So Ezekiel 31:4. The waters made him great. The deep, this is who this main crooked serpent, this crooked Leviathan is. The deep set him up on high with her rivers, running about as plants, and sent out her little rivers into all the trees of the field. All right. So real quick. Nope, that's not the one. Right. Genesis 1:2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Well, we saw that the deep is an actual entity, right? So the deep set him up on high with her rivers. Well, check this out. So this is Norse mythology, and this is hell, or Hela, which I do believe we get the word hell from these guys. But anyways, so Niflheim in Norse mythology, a cold, dark, misty world of the dead, ruled by the goddess Hel. In some accounts, it was the last of the 9 worlds, a place in which evil men passed after reaching the region of death. That's going to be interesting here. So situated below one of the roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil, I'm not sure you say that. And this Niflheim contained a well, Verglimmer, from which many rivers flowed. And here's this. In Norse creation story, Niflheim was the misty region north of the void in which the world was created. So now we see rivers, right? We see this well with rivers flowing from it. And what does it say here? Oops. The deep set him up on high with her rivers running around his plants. Well, who is this person she's setting up on high and empowering? Well, the Assyrian, right? We know the Assyrian as the destroyer. Now, I found something interesting with him as well. But anyways, Ezekiel 31:2. Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his multitude. Whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. Very interesting. Because we have this here. Ezekiel 29:3. So we saw he's called Pharaoh, king of Egypt, right? So, speak and say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon. Now, this isn't Satan, but this is the second guy in command, right? The great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which has said, my river's mine own, and I have made it for myself. Very interesting. So, we see that, and also, this dragon here is controlling the pharaohs of Egypt. Now, he is the Pharaoh king of Egypt, right? The head that's over these guys, but he's the one controlling them. And what's interesting when you look at Joseph, right? He was in great standing with this Pharaoh, but then a Pharaoh came who knew not, right? Who knew not Joseph, and then all of a sudden he enslaves Israel and goes after the firstborn and stuff like that. It's because he gained control back, basically, in my opinion. But he's also known as the destroyer, right? And of course, in the Exodus story, we have, the Passover story, I guess I should say. You put the blood on your doors, around your doors and stuff like that, and you won't suffer the destroyer. Well, it's this guy. And we're going to see that the Assyrian is a dragon. So real quick. And by the way, when we get into Abaddon, the spoiler, I'll get into the Assyrian way deeper. Oh, I might have brought it up already. Let me check. Yes. Yeah. No, this isn't it. But where did I put it? Oh, maybe I didn't bring it up. Oh, well. Okay. This is the Lucifer scripture here. Okay, where? We'll just read this. So Isaiah chapter 14, verse 29. Rejoice not, thou whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. Okay, let's find out what this shall be a fiery flying serpent. It's Seraph, which means fiery serpent. A dragon. And for more proof, that's talking about the Assyrian. So let's go to verse 25. Hold on. Let's go previous. Right here. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and the burden depart from off their shoulders. Okay. Now, let's go further into this deep character. So, First Enoch chapter 60, in verse 7. This is a fragment here. It's all fragmented, so if you wonder what's going on. Anyways, in that day were two monsters parted, a female monster named Leviathan, to dwell in the abysses of the ocean over the fountains of the waters. I probably should have brought this up first, but anyways. So, we have Behemoth, right? But the male of Behemoth, right? Which occupied his breast a waste of wilderness. So these two monsters, these primordial monsters were created, right? He had to separate them. Now, some myths will say that they were both male and female and they cut them and to make two. No, it doesn't say that because it says right here. On that day were two monsters parted. So there was probably some bow chicka bow wow going on here that wasn't supposed to happen, right? Because God said that a horse will mate with a horse, right? So something was going on here. And what's interesting with Hela, you start seeing that she creates like the frost giants and all these entities, which is very interesting in itself. But anyways, So yeah, let's go here. Got into that. All right. Now I want to go into this. So Genesis 1:2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. There's the deep. Now, I want to show you this picture. I'm a little mad at myself I didn't bring it up, but here. Let's go here. I want you to check out her face. It's halfway darkened. Right? Halfway darkened and decaying and all that. Look at this. Very interesting. And we know Satan, at least in the book of Adam and Eve, if you can trust it, it says that this darkness overcame him, right? Chapter 13 it is. So, we got the darkness overcoming this woman. And real quick, they can transform, right? I want to bring this up real quick. If you wonder why she's looking human there. They can transform. Okay. So we see it here. So, and no marvel for Satan himself, or I'm sorry, 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing that his ministers also be transformed as ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So, they can transform, and I'll even bring up some more stuff in the book of Enoch here. Okay. Oh. Oh, come on. What's going on here? There it is. Okay. First Enoch chapter 19. And Yahweh said to me, Here shall stand the angels who have connected themselves with women, and their spirits, assuming many different forms, are defiling mankind to lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. Very interesting. So they can transform, right? That's why you see a lot of this stuff, they have dragon aspects and, and stuff like that, like in RPGs and all that, right? So, very interesting that we see that Satan is a dragon. This Assyrian character is a seraphim or dragon, right? And it's this dragon bloodline thing, right? So it's very interesting. But yeah. Now, last thing. Job 41. Canst thou draw... Now, I want to say this, point out this. There are many different Leviathans. Okay? There's male and female. The crooked one is... and real quick, here may be a good one. I'm not sure, but... Right. Okay. Now, check this out, by the way. Let me find... Okay. So, starting in verse 2, Amos 9, verse 2. Though they dig into hell, then shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, very interesting, thence will I bring them down. And though they hide themselves in top of Carmel, I will search and take them out thence. And though they be hid from my sight at the bottom of the sea, thence will I command the serpent, and he shall bite them. So, very interesting. Is this that serpent? No. Is this that serpent here, right? So canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, Or his tongue with the cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put a hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? And wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? All right, let's go down here a little bit. So, who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another, and that no air can come between them. Let me find where it talks about his fire. Here we go. Okay. So, verse 18. By his sneezings, a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. This is interesting here. Because we know Lucifer, right? Son of the morning, or son of Shahar, which is interesting. But anyways, out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. And out of his nostrils go smoke, as out of seething pot or cauldron. There we go, guys. We got these hydras and these dragons and stuff like that, right? Just like we have here, right? Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces. A hydra, right? You can say. And gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. And let's bring this up real quick. Because we know, like, Alpha Legion kind of has that, not necessarily hive mind mentality, but they are Alpharius, right, per se. Check this out. So Mark 5, verse 9. And he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. So there's the hive mind mentality of the demonic kingdom, right? And they're all being controlled, because we see here, right, by these dragons and all that, these angel dragons, if you can call them that. So I'm against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of the rivers. So, very interesting. And who knows, this could be a different dragon than the Assyrian. But to me, you see it, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Where's the deep one? Right here. And son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, blah, 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 and behold the Assyrian. Right? So, very interesting. Now we round back to Warhammer 40k lore. So, despite their many heinous acts, at least some elements within the Alpha Legion still view themselves as loyal sons of the Emperor. These Alpha Legionaries, such as Ocam, or Ocam, I'm not sure how you say that, but anyways, see themselves as the most loyal sons, for it is they that damn themselves to work from within traitors' cells to purge both weak elements of the Imperium while dealing with the serious heretical threats. They see themselves as Emperor's test, challenging his servants to see if they are worthy to serve him. Rumors of these pretenders persist amongst the Alpha Legion in the 41st millennium. Those loyalist war bands and cells that exist in the 41st millennium, such as the Penitent Sons and Unsung, are largely seen by their fellow legionaries as irredeemable, deluded, but useful fools who seek self-flagellation and pretend to be remorseful after performing actions any other warband would. By the 41st millennium, the Alpha Legion had splintered into a wide array of divergent warbands, and those warbands into cells, each following numerous unique exceedingly divergent ideologies and tactical specializations of discord, sowing infiltration, sabotage, and the warbands are largely distrustful of one another and rarely work in concert. Alright, guys, we're gonna wind this down here. I want to thank everybody who liked the video. If you disliked the video, thank you for at least giving me a chance. Also, I do got memberships going up. You'll have access to my Discord, and I'm, thinking on getting some kind of videos for you guys. Maybe streaming with you guys, playing video games of some kind, or something. I'm still figuring that out, but I want to give you guys something so that way have your money's worth per se, right? But I don't want to, you know, put the Bible behind a paywall. Okay, so we'll figure out something with that. But anyways, guys, thank you, and you guys have a wonderful day.